Hello, this is Antoine with another episode of Out and Up, where we encourage young athletes to achieve their very best outside of the game. And like every show, we're blessed to have another awesome guest. And y'all know how I do. I'm gonna go ahead and let him introduce himself.
How y'all doing? Kelvin Durham, quarterback, Johnson C. Smith University.
Appreciate you joining us, Kelvin. You ready to get into the questions?
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So we're gonna go start like we always start. Where you originally from, born and raised?
I grew up in Miami, Florida.
All right, all right. And so, when did you start? Let's just say in sports. When did you get started in sports?
I started sports at a very young age. Around like 4 or 5 years old, I was started playing football.
Okay. Did you play any other sports in your youth?
Yeah, I played basketball as well, all the
Basketball
way
as well.
until all the way to my senior year of high school.
Okay, all right. And so, early on in your career, let's just start. I guess elementary school, middle school. Um, what position did you play?
It's crazy you asked that because growing up, I actually played receiver, linebacker, and safety.
All right. And so, when did you end up transitioning to quarterback?
I mean, I can say little league. I played a little quarterback, but it was only made for like certain packages we had. But when I truly made the transition my sophomore year of high school.
Okay, all right. And so I'm gonna ask, like, what was sports like back? And I'm originally from New Jersey, but what was football like for you growing up in Miami?
Really, football was really the main everything. Really, growing up it was God, family, school, and then football right after. Football was a big thing growing up. I remember going straight from class, from school, going to after school care, then going straight to football practice, and that was really my schedule all the way until I got to high school. So football was really the biggest thing growing up in football in Miami.
Awesome, awesome. And so, did basketball have some competition with football? Have you always decided to try to, continue your career on and play on a high level in football, or was there times that you kind of consider basketball also?
I actually did one point in time. I actually love basketball a lot more than football. I say around like my middle school time, but basketball was something to keep me busy during the off seasons. During that slow period growing up. So, but in middle school, I really fell in love with basketball because that's when I actually got the chance to play for a middle school basketball team. We didn't have a middle school football team, so
Okay.
just that experience of playing basketball for my school was, I kind of enjoyed that. So I actually wanted to transition to basketball more, but my father he wasn't going for it.
All
So he actually
right.
made me keep playing both all the way. He made me finish both all the way until high school. Really,
All right. So you've gone through what, 4 years of college already, correct?
yes, sir.
All right, 4 years of college. Do you still got your game in basketball?
Of course, I got it. Of course, of
Did,
course.
did you
Even
get
up here, even in college, during the off season, there's summer workouts in the spring. Some of my guys who hoop in high school, we have some runs. Just another way of staying in shape without football and just having fun. If you get what I'm saying.
got you. And I don't know if I asked already. What position did you play in basketball again?
Actually, it depends on what team I play. I actually played the 1 through the 5 out of all my years playing,
Wow.
but mainly 1 and the 2, really.
Did you have a position that you enjoyed more in basketball?
The one, of course, I like to have the control of the game and facilitating to my teammates and, just controlling the game and having the ball in my hands.
Okay, so I'm glad you said facilitator, but I'm gonna ask you this question: were you the point guard that enjoyed scoring, or did you just like setting up your teammates?
Like I said earlier, it really depended on what team I was on. So I can say, my middle school team, we won like 18 games in a row, won the middle school championship. So in that team, we were loaded. So I was really more of a facilitator on those teams. But my high school team, we had a couple young guys on my team, so I had to be the guy, the scoring guy, and the shoot first type of guy on my high school team.
All right. So let's get on into high school. At what point in high school did you really start to feel? Because you're now a collegiate athlete that have been able to just be highlighted in so many areas. Awesome career
Mm.
you've been able to have in college. And so, at what point in high school do you recognize you have an opportunity to play on the next level?
Honestly. I could say my senior year,
Right.
my senior year of high school, because really my first couple years, I wasn't on a really good football team. I was throwing out there kind of early as a sophomore, so I made a lot of mistakes young, and we weren't really good for 2 years. I can see the improvement of me getting better. I just didn't feel like the school I was at was the right situation. So I ended up transferring in high school my senior year to a
Okay.
school, and we at the point we were the number one team in the state of Florida. So that year, doing that, I like the middle of that year, where I felt like I could take my talents to the next level.
Awesome. Awesome. What high school did you play for?
I started at Miami Killian, then I transferred to South Dade High School.
Awesome. Awesome. And so, while in high school, what were some of your highlights you can remember in high school? As a
Highlights I can remember, I can say my junior year, well actually my sophomore year, getting my first start in the varsity game. That was a big moment for me. Got my very first start actually was I got a win in my very first start. So that was a big moment for me. I had 3 touchdown passes in the rushing. So that was just the start of my career. My junior year, I got the chance to play with Frank Gore Jr. He was, one of the great back that I got the chance to play with and learn a lot from football wise, and we had a great relationship during those years.
awesome.
And then my senior year, of course, like I said earlier, we were the number one team in the state at one point. We had beat a team who won the state championship the year before. So that was, probably the highest of my high school career was that senior year.
All right. And I didn't hear you mention it yet. I heard you talk about middle school, but did you play any Pop Warner or travel football?
Yes, sir. I did. I did. Yes, sir. Pop Warner.
Okay. All right. And what was that time like playing Pop Warner?
Part one was fun. I always played on a competitive team. We always had a team that was very good. We always came short. Never got a chance to win a championship in little leagues. Always fell short. Either second round playoffs or just a game or two short.
Got you. Got you. So I want to ask this. I always ask my guests that's on, whether it's soccer and it's club and volleyball and club sports or even the Pop Warner and AAU basketball. I always like to ask for the young athlete that would like to play on a high level, in your opinion, because everybody have a different opinion. In your opinion, how important is it to get involved in travel sports versus just playing for your school team? How important is it to get involved in travel sports?
I think it's very important because you get to see the different talents around the world, not just where you're from, and you get an understanding of how much work you have to do more because you're not only competing against guys in your area when you get to the next level in high school and college, you'll be competing against guys around the whole country. So get used to that at a very young age and knowing that you're not only competing against guys in your circle, you have to work harder against the top guys who are in other states and other places in the world.
That's good. That's good. And so I want to ask you, your senior year is when you said things start to become clear that you had an opportunity to play on the next level. So I want to ask, when did your recruiting process start?
So when I first, I guess I had a pretty good junior year,
Uh-huh.
but it wasn't. We were losing a lot, so schools wasn't really looking at me. So I made that transfer in that spring. So when I first transferred there, that's when I got a couple colleges like looking at me. They weren't really offering me yet, but they were just looking at me because we had guys on that team who were big D1 guys. So schools would come out, and I actually got my first offer at the end of that spring from Arkansas Pine Bluff.
Okay. All
So
right.
after that offer, that's when I really, gained a lot of confidence that, I have a chance.
All right. And so you stated at the beginning of the show that you're currently at Johnson C. Smith, but prior to going to Johnson C. Smith, you actually played a few years at another school. What school were you at?
Fort Valley State University.
All right. And so during the recruiting process, what was it that went into you making that decision to go to Fort Valley?
So actually, the coach who was recruiting me at Arkansas Pine Bluff, I actually committed there for a little while. But the coach that I had committed to, that whole coaching staff ended up getting fired that next spring. So I was really, in a tough situation. I didn't really have a school to go to, but like a couple NAIAs down in Miami. So
Okay.
one of my old coaches, my mom, like one of my childhood coaches, went to school with the coach at Fort Valley at the time. And he reached out to him, sent my film to him, and they actually liked my film at the time. So like a week before signing day, they brought me up for a visit, and then I ended up committing that same day, the same weekend at the visit, and then signed for signing day.
That's good. That's good. So for the young person in high school, they're starting to be recruited. They're going through just looking at the various schools. In your opinion, you're on the back end of your college career, but for that young person, what are some things that they should look at when deciding what school they go to?
The biggest thing I can say is, don't get caught up in the names and the big schools and things like that. Go to a school who loves you. Like go to a program who values you. That's the biggest thing because you don't want to go anywhere and not, play as you expected. Rather than this coach here is hitting you up every day, checking on you, checking on your family, trying to see how you're doing, like really interested in you. But this coach here is only texting you some days, and but you really want to go to the school just because of the name. So I just say go to who values you more. It's just not the big school, the cool school, and things like that.
That's good. That's good. Good advice. Great advice on that end. So, what was your career like at Fort Valley State? I know you've been able to accomplish a lot throughout college, not just at John C. Smith, but
Right.
also at Fort Valley. So, talk about just some of your highlights in those 3 years you played there. Correct?
Yes, sir.
In
Yes,
those
sir.
3 years at Fort Valley, what was your career like at Fort Valley?
So at Fort Valley, my very first year, I was freshman of the year, newcomer of the year, and I made first team all conference. Then to go on the next couple years, I ended up being the all-time leading passer in Fort Valley history. And every season I played at Fort Valley, we ended up with a winning record. And we also have a bowl game win my sophomore year at
Okay.
Fort Valley.
All right. All right. All right. And Fort Valley is in what conference again?
The SIAC.
Okay, all right. And so now you complete 3 years. You've had some success at Fort Valley. Before we get into your transition to John C. Smith, I just want to ask, what was the transition like for you from high school to college as a student athlete, not only just on the field but also in the classroom? What was that transition like for you?
Actually, for me, it was kind of tough for me, honestly. Just being in a different environment, coming from the city lifestyle, going to the country, things like that, and used to always having my mom or my coaches on my tail about waking up, going to class, and doing my classwork to being completely on my own. So I said my first semester was kind of a wake up call for me, knowing that I had to grow up fast if I wanted to continue being a student athlete in college, and knowing it was more of a business than just fun. So I think that was the biggest thing I had to deal with that transition was changing my mindset from football is something that I grew up having fun with to now just a business, and school and football both go together, and I have to do both I have to do both to get where I want to go.
That's good. That's good. That's good. And so, if you're talking to a group of young people, what are some things now? Again, whether you're talking to your younger self or talking to a group of young people and you're mentoring them, what are some things you would tell some high school players in preparing their mind to move on to that collegiate level, both in class, both on the classroom side as a student, as well as on the football side? What are some things that you had to learn that you can now tell a young group of people coming up?
The main thing I say is, keep the main thing the main thing. Like, what you're going to college for. Remember that there's going to be a lot of distractions, a lot of parties, a lot of females, but remember what you came to school for. And, just keep that tunnel vision and that tunnel mindset and just realize that everything's going to be there after football. You have a small window to make it for football. But all the parties and all the girls and all the fun things are going to be there when football is done. So just put that to the side for this short amount of time, for this small window that you have, whether what in any sport really, with this window you have, put all the fun stuff to the side and really lock into your craft and if this really what you want to do.
Got you. Got you. Thank you for that. And so I want to ask so many athletes I've had the opportunity to talk to them on the show and even away from the show. And I like to provide this information for those that have stories, Has there been from your high school, middle school, Pop Warner, some adversities that you can think about that you had to overcome? Some deal with injuries, some deal with whether it's personal stuff outside of the game. Are there some adversities that today you can talk about as your testimony that you've been able to overcome throughout your career?
Yeah, I could really say I could really give you one for everyone really. Going to the middle school, I was, like I said, I like basketball a lot, but our team was really stacked. So I really had to, change my play style in order for the team to succeed, to have success with the team. Because it was a point in time where me and the coach had to have a talk, because I felt like I wasn't scoring how I felt I was scoring. But we were winning games by 30 points, 40 points, and I had to come out in the fourth quarter. So I just had to realize that was when I first realized that, you have to make sacrifices for the team to win. So that really, I learned that at a really young age in middle school, and that still carries with me to this day. And then high school, just being thrown in the fire my sophomore year, not having any real experience at quarterback, but I was thrown out there as a young sophomore, and I had to learn fast. I had to grow up fast, and I had to learn that me being young, there's a lot of people who depend on me at the quarterback position, and I had to really take accountability for that and step up. And
That's
then in
good.
college, I actually had a lot of injuries in college. Like I said, my freshman year, I go from newcomer of the year, freshman of the year, first team all conference, preseason player of the year. Then I end up rupturing my ankle on both sides of my ankle. So now my dual threat ability is limited. So I had a really tough like 3 game stretch where not even a 3 game stretch. Really, every game that season, my sophomore year that we lost, I threw two or more interceptions that game, or I had two or more turnovers that game. So that was really tough for me, that all season looking back at how I played that season. And then yeah, that's all three of those.
All right, so I just want to ask, what's something you've been able to use that you can pass to a younger person regarding being able to overcome those adversities? What were some things that encourage you? Because some athletes go through the things that you went through, and they might throw the bag in, they might throw the towel in and quit. But you continue going at it. You've been able to have a successful career, not only at Fort Valley, but you move on to Johnson C, and we're gonna get into Johnson C in a minute. But I just want to ask, what were some things that motivated you or kept you going?
First, I always kept my faith with God. I always felt like God always He didn't bring me anywhere to let me down. So
Gotcha.
I always kept it in the back of my head, knowing there's always a solution. There's always a way to get around what I'm going through. And another thing is, I just been blessed to have a great family support staff and always have great teammates around me. They sense when I'm down and things like that, and always know when and how to pick me up and things like that. So I could give that the credit to both of those really.
That's good.
Then the last thing is really I could say I know how hard I work. So if things aren't going well at this moment, I know it wouldn't last forever because we've been through these situations before, been through these moments before. So I just, like I said, for my first, just keeping faith in it, keeping faith in God, and keeping trusting my work.
Got you. That's good. That's good. And so I want to ask, I know you talked about it, so I'm going to touch it real quick. Just in transitioning to the quarterback position, I think you said just sophomore year in high school. What were some of the harder things that you had to pick up in transitioning and changing positions?
Really, the hardest thing, really, I didn't really know how to read a defense, really, and that was really throughout my whole high school career. I really learned how to read a defense my freshman year in college, but
Okay.
that was the biggest thing. Really, I didn't really know how to learn. I mean, read a defense. It wasn't processing for me fast enough.
Okay.
Once I felt like the guy who wanted to throw the ball wasn't open, I used to try to just tuck it and run, and that didn't always work out for me. Being a
Gotcha.
smaller guy, younger guy, those guys were much faster than me, so I just had to think faster, process things faster, and that made me get into film more, made me learn my playbook more, so I can know I could go to A, B to C, but I only have 2 seconds to get there. If I don't know my whole playbook, I won't get there. So I know I had to make certain changes in my lifestyle if I wanted to be a better quarterback.
Good, good. And so I want to ask again as we talk, questions come up, and so I want to ask this because I have a son that played collegiately up in PA, and so I just want to ask to the young person who don't know because they're coming from high school, what is it like on the collegiate level learning a playbook?
It's different, man. It's different. And then, and if you have a coach like I had at Johnson C. Smith, he's going to want you to learn that playbook in a week. Like
Wow,
he wants you to know the playbook like he knows it, like the back of his hand. Especially if you're going to be his starting quarterback.
got you.
So it's tough, but like I said, if this really what you want to be, you're going to do it. You know, you're going to find a way to get it done.
All right, all right, right, right. So let's touch on it. I don't think we went into it yet. So let's go into Johnson C. Smith. What came about in you making that transition from Fort Valley to Johnson C. Smith?
So actually, like I mentioned earlier, my recruiting process at a high school with the coach who recruited me to Fort Valley, he ended up leaving Fort Valley and coming to Johnson C. Smith after my freshman year. So he actually wanted me to come then after my freshman year, but he was bringing in another quarterback that was there with us, who was the starter at the time.
Right.
So I just felt like it wouldn't be a good decision for me to move if I wanted to play. So once they left, I ended up being winning the starting job at Fort Valley. So boom, then getting so when I decided to enter the transfer portal, I was of course hoping to try to get some D1 schools to try to go to a D1 school. But I prayed about it, talked to my family about it, and I just felt like the best thing isn't going D1, it's going to like I said earlier, the people who want you there. Not about the big schools, the big names, but about the people who truly want you. And I feel like Johnson C. Smith truly wanted me to come play quarterback for their program.
That's
And
good.
they showed me tremendous amount of love throughout the year, and I'm happy I made that decision because it paid off, and just blessed to be in this position.
That's good. That's good. So I'm gonna ask if you don't mind asking me answering this question for me. I don't think I've had any football players on recently that we've been able to have this discussion over the years. We have NIL, we have transfer portal now. From your perspective, you're on the way out, out of college right now. But I'm just gonna ask from a player's perspective, what are the benefits? What are some of the pros and the cons to the transfer portal? I'll ask that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Okay, so I'll start with the cons first. Of course, it takes away from the high school guys. High school guys suffer from not being able to be as much recruited as guys were years prior.
Got you.
And it's I think it really kind of takes the fun away from college football. Guys aren't going to schools for the tradition anymore. They're going to schools just for the money and things like that.
All right.
But the pros of it, like I said, to be a student athlete in college, man, it's a lot, And I just, I'm happy guys like us are actually getting paid for what we're doing because it's a lot. We have to maintain a high GPA in the classroom and come to football and perform at a high level. So
Good.
it's a good thing that guys are actually getting paid for it. And also guys who are under recruited in high school, who went to smaller schools, D2s, JUCOs, NIAs, they get a chance, to move up after playing good where they started at. So
That's good. That's good. That's good. Appreciate that. So you talked about how you got to Johnson C. Smith. And so let's just talk about what you've been able to accomplish this year
sir.
alone. This 1 year at Johnson C. Smith. Let's talk about what you've been able to accomplish there.
Yes, sir. So this year I finished with the single season passing record, single season touchdown record, single season all purpose yards, single season completion percentage record. First championship in school history since 1969, I believe, and first playoff appearance in school history.
Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. What did that feel like accomplishing all that this year for your
Nah,
school?
it felt amazing, man. Like I knew what I was walking into before I came here, the history of the school. So, but I knew we had the tools to make it happen. The right coaching staff, the right players, the right everything. It was just a matter of just putting everything together. And we always knew we could do it. It just make sure everybody was bought in. And I felt like everybody was bought in, and it showed, man. So Like as soon as the clock hit zero in the championship night, it just felt like a dream. It still feels like a dream, honestly. Like it still doesn't feel real. Like I still go back and look at those pictures from that game, man. Just
That's
stare at them sometimes, man. It's
that's
just an
good.
amazing feeling.
That's good. Now I'm gonna ask you to be real with me because you've been blessed to win the chance to see our double A this year.
Yes, sir.
Let's go back to the beginning of the season. Everybody's looking for success. I don't think nobody goes into a season with a negative mind frame.
Facts.
But was this championship talked about from day one?
Yes, sir. This championship was talked about since I transferred in when I
Got you.
came on my visit. Because they had a pretty good season last year.
Right.
Went 8-2 and they dropped their last two games. So, I felt good about the team coming in. And the coaches felt good about me coming in because we actually played against each other my sophomore year in the beach ball, in the bowl game. So, we felt like everything came together at the right time. We had a lot more transfers guys come in. They had an All-American receiver from the year before who was coming back. They had a receiver from last year who got hurt the first game of the season and came back, who was my leading receiver this year, DeAndre Proctor. So
That's
we
good.
felt real good about it. And then really, we actually had another receiver transfer to us, but he ended up transferring out like a week before the season started.
Got you.
We felt real good about our chances at winning a championship since I stepped foot in Charlotte.
That's good. That's good. So with all the accomplishments you've been able to have even this season alone, winning the championship, all the awards that you got this season, it's obvious that you put a lot into your game. You've put a lot into, just being the piece that your team needs to be successful. But I want to ask, what is it that you do outside of the game?
Outside of the game, really, it's really all football, man. Like if I'm not playing in football, I'm at home watching football. I'm at home learning more about football because I really want to try to get into coaching if I don't get an opportunity to play football at the next levels. I just want to be around the game as much as I can. So I try to soak up in as much knowledge as I can, just watching
All right.
different levels of football, all the way from NFL to high school to this everything. Just trying to learn as much as I can.
All right. I like to ask athletes who leave their hometown, do would your dream be to go back home and coach, or are you enjoying your time in the Queen City in Charlotte? What would be your goal whenever you go back, whether it's after a pro career or whatever? What would be your goal to coach back home, or are you enjoying Charlotte?
The destination really doesn't matter. It's just all about the right opportunity, the right
Okay.
situation.
Okay.
I
All right.
want my coach. Like to answer your question, I want my Miami or Charlotte.
Gotcha.
I love to coach in any area.
Okay, all right. Now I know you talked about Fort Valley State being a little country and having to get adjusted there. What has life been like being in Charlotte though? We didn't talk about that.
It's lovely, man. It's like home again. When I'm living
Yeah,
in Miami. Able to go watch the Panthers if I want to. Able to go watch the Hornets game. Do some things in the city. So like it's fun. It's things like that I could be able to do with my friends and my family when they come visit for games and stuff like that.
got you. And so you talked about it, and you really touched on it already, but I'm gonna ask the question to see if you have anything additional to add. For the young person who, again, whether it's in middle school, high school, they always want to have all the fun, want to be a part of all the crowds, and do whatever is going on. How important is it? Like, what would you say to that young person regarding being able to have that mindset of delayed gratification, being able to understand the importance of putting your all into that thing that you're going after, whatever sport it is, and kind of knowing that, hey, the fun stuff, we can do that later after we accomplish those goals. What would you say to that young person?
I just try to tell them, no, I understand it's tough. Your friend might, try to call you lame and things like that, but you gotta have the bigger picture with things like that. Like if you really want to be a pro athlete in your sport, just look at the other guys who made it in your sport. Look at the journey they went through and things like that. Just try to stay focused, try to keep the main thing, and I won't say to put it all the way, like, completely, but learn how to balance it.
Gotcha.
Learn how to keep the main thing, and set aside from the fun.
That's good. That's good. And so I just want to ask, your season is over this year. You are going to be playing in the Legacy Bowl. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So
Yes,
what was
sir.
that like when you found out you were invited there?
Yeah, that was a blessing as well, man. That felt real good because when I was at Fort Valley State, I had a couple teammates get selected as well. And when I first found out about that, that it was always on my bucket list. When I'm a senior, I want to get invited to the Legacy Bowl. And
Gotcha.
then when I got my invite, I was actually like one of the first 10 people to get the invite. So that made me feel good as well, and let me know that I'm doing something right, and also let me know that I have to keep going and not to stop now, not to get comfortable with it. Knowing that I have to put in more work so I can impress the people there.
That's good. That's good. And so outside of playing in the Legacy Bowl, let us know what are your plans going forward from the football standpoint? What are your goals?
Oh, I want to get a shot at the next level, really, man. I'm not really too really worried about what league it is, NFL, XFL, CFL. I'm just really looking for an opportunity, and I'll, handle working my way up to where I want to be at.
Got you. Got you. Got you. So has since the season's been over, has it been a lot of studying, whether it's tapes or videos, and as well as, still working out? Have you been doing a lot of that?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Watching a lot of a lot of NFL tape, a lot of NFL quarterbacks' footwork, learning their cadences, things like that. A lot of play action work when I do train with my trainer. A lot of quick throws, a lot of deep routes, things like that. Just trying to, using the different football now, changing from the college ball to the pro ball. Just trying to get accustomed to the small things
Okay.
now as fast as I can.
That's good. That's good. Well, I just want to, as I get into my last two questions I ask every show, I first just want to give you one more moment for that young person that gets to watch this episode. Um, what's some advice you can give them for just mentally, physically, emotionally, just preparing themselves to really be able to be in a position that you're in, to be able to play on a high level collegiately, and even have the opportunity to be considered for an all-star game, even have the opportunity to be considered, as a pro prospect. So what are some things that you can tell them just throughout your journey you can give them, in preparing to put themselves in the same position you've been blessed to be in?
I know I sound kind of repetitive, but I think this is really the number one thing that got me where I am is, and that's keeping the main thing, like not getting distracted. Because there's a lot of distractions nowadays with social media, parties, and like there's a lot of things like you could easily get distracted by. And once you make your mind up that you are not going to be distracted and you're going to lock in on your craft, you're going to see the steady improvement year by year, day by day. However long it takes, like you're going to see it. So just trust it. Just trust the process.
That's
Trust the
good.
process.
That's good. I appreciate you with all the questions that you've answered. We're gonna get into the last two questions that we ask every show. First one I always ask is, how important is it to have positive people in your circle?
It's very important because it's a negative world that we live in. A lot of people don't want to see you, don't want to see guys succeed in life. So it's really a blessing to have those guys who want to see you succeed. It's a blessing to have those guys in your corner who want to see you do good. So, and that's a part of the reason why I have success. I have a lot of people in my corner lifting me up on the days I don't feel like going to work out, on the days I don't feel like doing what I'm supposed to do. But I have people, reminding me day after day that, I came too far to stop now. I came too far to let anything stop me. So it's very important to have those people in your life because, they help a lot.
That's good. That's good. My last question I always ask, who or what is it that inspires you most in life?
Who or what? I can say my family. My family, they show me a lot of love and support. My family always they weren't able to do things because there are certain situations back then. So, they always go out their way to make sure me and my brothers, have everything that we need to succeed in life. So my family, they keep me going because I know how hard they work now. They're still working hard to this day to make sure we don't live the life that they're living now. So my family.
That's good. That's good. Well, we appreciate you, Kelvin, for joining us. All the awesome information that you've been able to provide. I know it will be a blessing to that young person that's able to watch this episode.
Yes,
So I
sir.
appreciate you again for joining us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you for having me.
You all know I always say it. It is good to be great in the sport that you're playing, but it's even better to be great in life. We've been able to provide you with some great information again with another awesome guest. But I always tell you, it means nothing if you're not intentional in applying it. So I challenge you, take the offer. Awesome information that Mr. Durham has been able to provide you today. Make sure you're
Yeah.
applying it to your everyday, your career, your life, and I promise you, it'll put you into also a great situation. So we just want to thank you all for joining us for another episode, and we'll see you next time for another episode of Out and Up.